Hey everybody, this is Jack with Vacationese, and as you know, we are here. It looks like I'm on the beach, and unfortunately I'm not. But we are going to talk about getting real world experience on planning a destination wedding. So as you see, I have some guests. So why don't you tell us who you are, where you had your wedding, and when your wedding was?
Okay, I'll take it. I'm Mackenzie. This is Charlie. We had our wedding at El Dorado Royale Casitas in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And the date was February 18th, 2024.
Yep. So we did it on a Sunday, President's Day weekend. It was a little cheaper on a Sunday, which is also why we did it as well.
Well, that's a good point. So Charlie, tell us, you say a little cheaper. So what was cheaper? Was it the room rates were cheaper, or did the wedding department give you a reduction in the cost because you did a wedding on a Sunday?
I think it was a little bit cheaper cost for doing the reception and ceremony on a Sunday, since that's not like the most desired day. And for us, since it was a destination and we decided to do President's Day weekend, everybody had Monday off, and that it didn't really matter if you were doing it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, since you were, on vacation.
Well, how smart to do a wedding over what I call a Hallmark holiday that your friends and family were around. And what's interesting to me is that the resort didn't charge any more, because you would think they know people are going to be there. Your guests had to take less time off of work. So that's great that everybody saved a little bit of money, had less time off of work.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that, because you talked about saving money, which is always a question I get from brides and grooms, is how can we save money? I
Mhm.
think one of the things you did, because you're at Generations and or El Dorado Royale and El Dorado Casita, as I recall, they give you some perks. So can you tell us about, I think their promotion was called Private Event or Cash for Bash. Can you tell us how that worked and how it helped you save money?
So we don't have all the details in front, but I'll go over what we remember so we got a kickback based on how many rooms we had.
Not a kickback,
Not
no kickback, everybody.
Sorry, we
Uh,
got
An incentive.
an incentive, sorry.
There
An
you go.
incentive from that if we had more, we had to book 15 rooms, and then but every 12th room was covered. And we had, I think, up to 27 rooms. So we had, I think, 2 or 3 rooms that ended up being covered. And then we got, since we
So let me
had,
just interrupt you. So
yeah,
I just want people to know that when Mackenzie says covered, the rooms, the resort talks about them being free, and they're not really free, but instead of being free, you got money back after you returned from the wedding. And I'll guess came on your credit card, and it was
mhm,
probably several $1,000s of
it was.
a wedding
So
gift.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we met that minimum, and then after the wedding, because they wait until everybody actually books, because that's what they want to verify at the very end to make sure that you meet that. And then pretty much, yeah, we uh, sorted it out with the people at the resort, as well as your team at Vacationese was very helpful in terms of like, okay, you should expect it on X date. So it
Right.
was there.
And then you also had an incentive, which they reduced the cost of your private events, as I recall from
it,
your contract, right? So unlike most resorts, where you have to pay for the food and beverage at some exorbitant rate,
Yeah.
this hotel had a promotion we were able to get. And as I recall, as long as you have X number of rooms, they give
mhm.
you money towards your cocktail parties or things
Mhm.
like that. So tell us how that worked.
And that was, so the benefit of having more people, if you can come, is that the more rooms you have, the more incentive you get. So we got somewhere around like $500 off of the cocktail,
Mhm.
money off of food. We got, I
Based on
believe,
the package that
based on
we
the package that
got as
we,
well, the rehearsal dinner was included in that because we
Wow.
met the minimum amount of rooms,
and
the rehearsal
then
dinner.
we had money taken off of our um photo package. So I think that was almost like a 20% off rate.
Wow.
And we did the videography, we did photography. So we were able, because of all this, to really get everything that we would have wanted ever to think of, and it still be affordable for us.
Yeah,
That's great.
and in terms of saving money when we were looking at it, I think we got the always and forever wedding package, so it was more towards the base end, And then my train of thought was where pretty much we could just build on extra stuff. So we did go a little bit more for the videography and photography package. But just, yeah, we were able to control it that way instead of like getting a package where everything was a little locked in and it was super high.
We really loved our like offsite coordinator was Anna. She was amazing. So we had like a couple videos with her, and like a lot of email correspondence. And I mean, we definitely started planning earlier, on the earlier side, probably 11 months out.
Well, longer than that.
We started planning, but talking with Anna was like
Oh
11
yeah, talking.
months
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was something where we touched base with her early on, but we didn't really actually get down to like the nitty gritty stuff until probably like 3-4 months out.
How far out did you start? I mean, you had this idea of a destination wedding, but how far out did you actually start the planning and think about where to go, resorts, who to work with, your
Mhm.
dreams? So tell us more about that process.
So I think to round it out, we started say planning, or like the idea was germinated about 18 months out.
Yeah.
We actually had this idea because another couple that we knew worked with you guys,
Oh,
Shantae and Elijah, and
oh,
they
Champagne Elijah.
loved it. So we were like,
Oh,
well, we want to do that because we wanted to be able to we knew how much for us living in New England it would cost to have the wedding we really wanted, and
Mhm.
especially in high season in the summer, that it really made sense, and we wanted to have that experience of doing the destination wedding.
Yeah, so when we were looking into it, it was funny because we found you all at Vacation Ease, and then when we talked to them about it, because we're like, oh, they did a destination wedding, they're like, that's exactly who we use. We love them. So it was
that's
just
great.
serendipity right there.
Their wedding was one big party from everything I saw, videos.
Yeah,
That's what they told
Yeah,
us.
it was a crazy party, and the resort told me about that too. So 18 months out, you start thinking you're gonna have a destination wedding. You
Mhm.
contact us. Um, how did I mean? I know you had ideas that you wanted adults only, evidently, because we're at an
Right.
adults only resort. Um, so how did you come up with the ideas on the resorts? I'm going to guess, needless to say, I helped you. We looked at a list of resorts, but
Yeah.
how did you go through that process, and what was it that ultimately made you choose El Dorado Royale and El Dorado Casita?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a little bit more of a spreadsheet freak. So obviously with your expertise, Mackenzie and I hopped on the phone with you and we're like, okay, this resort has X, so we check that box. They have good food. What are the, I guess the overall vibe or the temperament? We kind of wanted a mix, which is, how you kind of steered us towards the particular resort that we went to. A big one for us was, okay, how far is it from the airport, Cancun International Airport? Because I didn't necessarily want our guests, one way, getting shuttled like over an hour or something like that after being on potentially a 4+ hour flight, something like that. So something that was within 30 to 45 minutes of the airport. Any other?
We had a range of people and ages and temperaments coming, is that we wanted to have some fun party, drinking, things to do, and the relaxation, the spa kind of vibe. And we felt that with all the locations that you had offered us and different options available, that this fit our food, how big it was, and that it had a variety of different kind of options for
So let's
guests.
talk about your guests. So how many guests did you invite?
So I think we invited pretty high.
Yep.
So like everybody that we could think of. So we invited 100 people.
Wow.
Realistically, we did not get that many people,
Yeah.
but we
I think you had 28, 27 rooms, if I'm
did
correct.
27 rooms.
Yeah.
So that came out to about 45 people that confirmed and came. I think at
Mhm.
one time we had like 60 people that said they would go, but then you always have sometimes a last few minute people drop out.
So you invited 100, but realistically, how many did you expect?
I think we expected
Like 60 to 70.
And you
So
ultimately had 45.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which was
Okay.
realistic to what, you recommended in the planner as well, in terms of like expect X amount or percentage to kind of drop off.
So if you had to tell me like your favorite thing about the wedding experience, not
Mm.
related to the vacation experience, what is your favorite part of planning the wedding and
Mm.
attending the wedding?
So planning, I think that one thing that I know that I liked was that Anna had this whole spreadsheet that we just filled out as kind of plug and play. She's like, everything that you want based on this stuff put in here. So that definitely made it easier for us to go through, make all those decisions compared to having to think through and get different vendors and do different things. I very much appreciated that, and I know that Charlie did too. And that also kind of the world was your oyster of stuff that you could pick. We never had an issue of like, oh, we can't do that, or that's not an option. It was like, we can make that work.
So so that's really important. I think anybody watching this should listen to what you just said, because there are resorts that we deal with that, you know, the answer is always no. And I find in dealing with this resort, it's one of the resorts that no matter what you ask for, their answer is either yes or maybe, and they will figure it out. And that's why I always say to people, if you want the best wedding team, the people here are just, they're nice people, they're easy to deal with, and they're creative. And that's kind of what it sounds like you experienced.
Yeah.
No, and then that was pretty much mine as well for the planning portion, because the team was great. You know, being in the food service industry, I'm definitely all about, you know, I'm thinking about my guests. Obviously, Mackenzie and I's time, like how are we going to experience it there? And that's kind of the same thing of taking the load off of us in terms of planning. Is they had to do, even the day of coordinator, Gloria was great. You know, she was running around, you know, between Mackenzie and I's parties and like making sure everything was okay. So just that hands off of like, yeah, not having to hop around to different vendors, like just one-stop shop made it a lot easier.
And what about for your events? Tell us what events you had. So, you know, you got there, and give us an idea of the sequence of events, what locations you had them at, and kind of if you had any themes or special foods or experiences.
That we didn't plan a specific welcome party, but we had kind of a meet and greet with our guest at Martini's bar that was at the lobby. And since it's an all-inclusive, she was like, just show up, be there, tell your guests to be there, and they can all come and have a drink. So we didn't have food or like an extra schedule there, but that was something that was a great suggestion from them. And then the following day we had like the typical rehearsal in the morning. And then we had our rehearsal dinner at Kokotau.
So another event, sorry, that we did wasn't scheduled as well. It was kind of like a natural thing, but we definitely recommend it if you're there and you have like, you know, a majority younger crowd like we did, was at the La Isla pool. The day before we were at the pool, and we found that you could rent these Bali beds because the seating was a little hit or miss in terms of the amount of people that were gathering there. So we also just, I think, rented 3 of them. And the next day we had like a text blast on WhatsApp, and we pretty much hit everybody up and said, hey, we're going to be here for the majority of the day. It's drinks, pool, everything. And so everybody filtered in and out, but the bulk of the people stayed there. And honestly, that was, other than the wedding day, was everybody's like favorite time as well, was just everybody was together hanging by the pool. We had our own space, so we didn't have to kind of fight for chairs or anything like that. And they had servers that would come up.
Dinner, this is, people always ask me about rehearsal dinners. So the wisdom you can provide, was everybody invited to the rehearsal dinner? Just the bridal party, just family members? So tell us about the rehearsal dinner. Was it free? Was it private? Was it semi-private? Tell us more about that.
Was private. We invited, so we could invite up to 40 people. So that for us, like being at the 45, it would kind of capped out. So say if you had a smaller one, maybe it's worth it. So it ended up being about half of the whole group. So it was bridal party plus their partners, family. And like family that was more immediate family. So it's like my mom and dad, his parents and sister. And so it's like more immediate family. So it ended up being like 24 people. But it was private at Kokotau. So, you know, still had that very kind of VIP elevated feel.
Yeah, it was family style, which was very nice too. So it was like everybody was already, they got to know each other from Friday night, Saturday day, and so it was just like everybody went back, took a nap, got ready, and then they were all refreshed again. And you know, it was just like a big old family just having dinner. Yeah, so they had catalogs as well. So in terms of like, yeah, the rehearsal dinner, they're like, which is what we also loved. You just, here's the PDF, look through the family style or plated if you want, and you know, pick whatever you want, whatever it is, like Indian, Asian, and then obviously we went with
they had a lot of options. It wasn't just 3 options.
Yeah,
you weren't pigeonholed at all.
Right.